What's going on, Three Man Weave family? It's your boy ZD in the cut with the other man, CJ. We in the building. We coming at you guys live on a Monday. It's July 28th, man. It's almost August. But CJ, how you doing today, man? How you feeling? You ready to chop it up about some hoops?
Oh yeah, bro, doing good. We chopped it up as we do before every pod, and just let you know, just been I've been off this past couple of days, so just kind of been going to the gym, trying to get everything right. But doing good, bro. Ready to chop it up. We got the Western Conference tiers that we're going to be discussing in this upcoming video, and then we also have the offseason files for the Los Angeles Clippers, who have been making a lot of huge moves this offseason. So it's gonna be super interesting, and yeah, bro, super excited. Can't wait to chop it up about hoops with you. But how are you doing today?
Oh yeah, yeah, man. We playing basketball. I'm feeling good. I did a lot of things today, man. I was able to mess around on Google Docs. Shoot some short form, but here we sit, ready to chop it up about the Western Conference tiers, and then we're going into the offseason files, like you mentioned, with the Los Angeles Clippers. And yeah, man, I got a meeting after this, so other than that, I'll be able to chill later tonight. But it's been a pretty good day, man, pretty productive, so I can't complain. But yeah, man, the way that we do it on this show, for people who don't know, we did the Eastern Conference last time. I don't think the videos came out, but we start from the bottom up. So we got four tiers. Fourth tier is kind of the lottery risks. And these are the teams that are not necessarily the greatest. We are supporters of every team on this show, so we don't hate on any NBA team, but unfortunately, Tier Four is made up of the worst teams in the West. So we'll get right into it, man. I'm gonna start it right off with the Utah Jazz, man. And what more can I say? They're just rebuilding right now, man. They're shifted pieces. They got Keontae, they got Walker Kessler, they got Lowry Markkinen, now they got Ace Bailey. They got a few pieces that are interesting. Collier as well. It's just we don't really know where they've been going since Jordan did them in the '90s, man. And it's been tough. We haven't really seen a
Facts.
successful Utah team, to be honest with you. Even going back to Donovan Mitchell, right? Like
Hmm.
just getting cooked by Jalen Brunson and a Luka-less Mavericks was a very interesting type of thing, especially to be the number one seed. But
Right.
neither here nor there. The Utah Jazz have been in despair for the last few years, and I think that this upcoming draft kind of signaled to us the direction they were going. And honestly, bro, they took a risk here. Like you saw the issues with Ace Bailey before the draft. They punted that. They felt like he was the most talented available. And I agree. I think this is the opportunity to build through their young core, and that's what they're going to have to do for this upcoming season. It's been very difficult over the last few years. They're kind of stalling. They don't really know the direction that their team is going in. And I know the Jazz fans are feeling it, man, especially being in the altitude, being in that cold climate, bro, it gets dark for sure. So hopefully Utah can continue to grow. We know they have a really good coach in Will Hardy, who's been outstanding, who actually recently signed a big, contract extension. So that's really good. He's going to be there for a while and just building a culture there, man. So I'm really excited to see what Utah's got to offer, but unfortunately, we've got to put them in the lottery risk tier. If you want to add anything, go ahead, my man.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly, bro. Like they're in a very weird spot because they're pretty much just tanking essentially. That's where they're at right now in their timeline, and it sucks to say it, but I think that they know that that's where they're at, and that's good. I feel like that's something we always bring up whenever we discuss about a team and where they're at, just like I said, on their timeline and whatnot. And you have to be aware of the situation you're in, and as of right now, they got rid of John Collins. They have Laurie Markkinen. They have Walker Kessler, and they have a lot of good young guards. So it's gonna be hard. They just got Ace Bailey, and they also got Walter Clayton Jr. So their team already is gonna be super young, and as of this point, they're just trying to figure out who's going to be their franchise pieces. I guess I wouldn't even say cornerstones, just someone that's going to be on a roster. And yeah,
Yeah,
and it's crazy to think that, like you said, they haven't really been successful since trading away Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. So that's hasn't it wasn't that long ago, but it wasn't recently. I think it was like what 4 years ago,
exactly.
four or
4 or 5 years
five
ago
years
now.
ago.
Fifth
Yeah.
year, I think.
So it's since then they haven't really been successful, and I think it's kind of been showing just they haven't really been the best front office as well. So it's kind of something that isn't really in their control. I think they have. I think Danny Ainge is there, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, his son. Sorry,
Yeah,
his
his
son.
son's there. So they're trying to figure everything out and just trying to see who's going to be on the roster for the foreseeable future. Like you said, interested to see what Ace Bailey can be. I think he's kind of like a wild card in this past draft that kind of just happened. Just I feel like his potential is really high, or he could,
Yeah.
and his
No,
floor,
I like the pick.
yeah, no, his floor is like pretty high as well. I think just the type of player that
Yeah,
he is, and it's something that they need because they've had really good guards, but they haven't had someone in the forward spot that can kind of just get a bucket. So
hit a bucket.
it's
Right.
exciting to see what he could be, and just I'm excited to see
Athletic.
Laurie Markkinen. See if he can have a bounce back season. I feel like he's a really good player. He's shown us good signs. It's just kind of the consistency. And, I feel like, after the season he had this past year, if he kind of bounce back and kind of be a good veteran for, Ace and Walter Clayton Jr. and even everyone else, that's a super young team. And I feel like he could kind of be a good presence in that locker room. So we'll see how he does. And, obviously they have Cody Williams as well. We haven't really brought him up. He didn't have the greatest
Yeah,
rookie season, but J Dub's brother, so that's something, right? And we kind of seen the type of player that he can be, and they're brothers at the end of the day. So we'll see what he can be this upcoming season as well. But yeah, no, super excited to see what they can do. I mean, it's not gonna be a lot of winning games, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a good, young, exciting team that is just nothing but prospects. So anybody could prove themselves any
developing.
night, and it's going to be interesting to see how they can kind of piece everything together.
Yeah, bro. Exactly. I think, yeah, it's a perfect way to explain it. Oh, they're in developing mode right now. They're in developer mode. They're trying to figure out where they're going to take the next step, and like you mentioned, they're still trying to figure out who their franchise cornerstone is going to be, whether that's Ace Bailey, or Lowry Markkinen. That's yet to be known. But moving right along, man, we got to talk about this team. They just recently acquired Damian Lillard, but it's none other than the Portland Trailblazers. The Blazers are an interesting spot too. Uh, I would argue similar to the Jazz, just a ton of young talent, a lot of young guards, a lot of young bigs. Donovan Clingan, Hanson Yang. They got a couple interesting pieces on that roster, and it's very intriguing. They've been able to show us what they can do in a couple sneaky underdog wins. They've beaten a couple good teams last year, and I think it kind of showed us what Portland can be. I think Tumani Kamara has been a gem for them. Just what he's been able to do as a defensive stopper. He's kind of their main centerpiece, their main feature piece on that side of the floor. And it gives them an opportunity at any given night because, somebody can shut down the opposing superstar player. And that's really important too. Chauncey Billups has been there for a couple years as well. So the continuity is really high. I think for me, we just need to see more from Scoot and Shaden Sharp. Those guys have been hurt at times. I think Scoot picked it up, especially this last year. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, he's a smaller guard, but he's more athletic. But Shaden Sharp really should have a pretty crazy year this year.
I agree.
Saw him
He
training in
should.
Spain. Yeah, I saw him training in Spain on the NBA Instagram, and he just looks, a really really polished. Like he's been in the league for a few years. He's still very young. He's really really athletic. He's starting to put together a really good 3-point shot, and that's super valuable. So
Mm-hmm.
they still got Grant as well, a veteran leader who's Drew Holiday, another veteran leader. It's Portland. Unfortunately, Damian Lillard with the Achilles tear is not going to be in the mix, but their young core, man, like there's no reason why they shouldn't take that next step, kind of similar to the Jazz, and really develop and focus on building towards what their franchise is going to turn into in the future, and whether that's a contending team or if that's building through the draft. I think we're going to get the answers to that question over the next couple seasons, and I think this season coming up is really important, especially for Shaden Sharp's development. So hopefully Portland can get out of the despair pit as well. They have not performed super well. Damian Lillard has been the only bright spot for them over the last decade, and Brandon Roy, right? Like even going back to him and LaMarcus Aldridge, right? There's been certain great players in Portland who haven't been able to get it done. And I know that pains the Portland Trailblazers fans, but I know you guys are really excited about the young core that you got, and that's really good. I think they've done a good job of the way that they've been able to build through the draft, and um, I think their season is on the up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, I think if Dame was healthy going into this season, bro, and he was able to play on this roster, I think it would just make it more exciting for the fans. But obviously, that's not the case. But they earned, like you said, when you first started talking about them, they're in a really interesting spot because they have a lot of good talent that is going to be developed throughout the season. So they're also going to see who is going to be a part of this team going further along into their timeline. And I think the thing with them is, like you said, Shaden Sharp should have an incredible season. I'm expecting it, for like the type of player he's always had the
No Simon,
opportunities. I think it's just now he's literally kind of handed the keys in a sense. You get rid of Dame for the past couple seasons, and then you get rid of who they have, bro. I'm bugging.
Simon,
Anthony Simons. So the
yeah,
fact that he's kind of him and Scoot, and I feel like Scoot is a great player. I feel like he just kind of needs a little bit more time. I think this is obviously his going into his third year. I feel like the game will slow down for him eventually, and when that happens, it's going to benefit their team and the way his play style is a lot. But as of right now, I think Shaden Sharp should probably be like the main kind of facilitator of the ball, like kind of making like the plays and stuff, just because what he's been able to do these past couple seasons, and not the limited time, but I think injuries and not being the main primary facilitator in like certain sets, he's gonna have those like assignments now. So I think this is gonna be a huge year for him, and like you said, I'm excited to see what Donovan Klingen turns into, and also Yang Hansen, like seeing kind of his development, and if they run their double bigs, what's that going to look like? And they have like you said, a lot of good young talent all over the court. So I think going into thinking further ahead, obviously, but going into this like the year when Dame would be coming back, I think this is going to be a good like bridge year for them. Kind of figure out who's going to be the certain players and that you're going to go to certain times of the game or clutch moments and little stuff like that kind of builds off of it. And then by the time Dame comes back, he could kind of do what he's been doing for in the league and
years,
specifically for the
yeah,
Blazers for the past decade. So I'm excited to see what they can turn into, and another good young team in the West, man. I think that's something that we're probably gonna be saying a lot throughout this whole video, and it kind of just holds up because it's a bloodbath, and to get to these points, and like we're talking pretty highly of them, but there's at the end of the day they're still a lottery team. So just
oh
kind of
yeah,
kind of
oh yeah,
crazy. Just goes to show you the depth of the Western Conference.
100%, bro. And yeah, they again, those two teams, specifically the Jazz and the Blazers, just haven't seen a lot of playoff success in the last few years, and hopefully, they get back to that point. Kind of leading us right into our next team, similar, newer franchise, so don't want to hate on them too much, but it's the New Orleans Pelicans. They're in an interesting spot because of DeJounte Murray's injury. They were able to draft Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, who are pretty interesting pieces.
Get
Zion's injury. What's up? What's up?
I was about to say Derek Queen actually got injured. I don't know if you saw that.
Injured.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I think
saw
he's going to
that.
be out for like 16
A
weeks or
little
something.
while.
Yeah,
A
so
little while.
that
Yeah,
trade's
he'll
looking a
come back,
little.
but he's not going to be there day one for
Yeah,
sure.
so
Yeah, I did see that. So again, that kind of leads me into my next point. What I was just going to bring up is Zion's health too. I mean, their team is just a big injury question mark, and that's the biggest concern for me. They have a super great young core who's, if healthy, is very dangerous. They've lost Brandon Ingram. They got rid of C.J. McCollum. Um, DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy and Zion, they're supposed to be their main core. And if those guys are out on the court, they're going to put out a good product. I
mhm.
think when Derek Queen does come back, he'll fit right alongside what they're doing there. And then Jeremiah Fears, I think, is going to be able to go from the jump. He's not going to have any reins on him. I think they're going to let him shoot as many times as he wants, especially if he's coming off the bench. So New Orleans is an interesting spot. They're still kind of in limbo. They don't really know what to do. The guys that they're building around just can't seem to stay healthy, and that's a recipe for disaster, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not a recipe for success, and we've seen that over the last few seasons. I mean, even going back to the play-in mishap, not the play-in mishap, the play-in tournament, or not the tournament. Sorry,
When they win
what's it
against
called?
y'all?
The mid-season tournament.
Oh, mid-season.
Yes, the mid-season.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Versus the Lakers. Yeah, they didn't really show up, and they haven't always been able to show up in certain playoff series, and that's really hurt them. I think there's I so you remember this when Steph Curry hit this 3-point shot in the corner over AD, and it was in like a sea of red, and it was against the Pelicans, and
Yep.
I think the Pelicans were the 8th seed. Like, that's kind of like what plays in my mind anytime I think about Pelicans
Pelicans
basketball. It's
basketball.
just like they haven't been able to like get over that step, and it's
Yeah.
just really frustrating, bro. And they have great pieces. They've surrounded the right players with good talent. It's just they've gotten unfortunate with the injury luck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been kind of like you said, they haven't been bad. It's not like they're missing the playoffs.
No,
They're always usually a play-in team, and then usually end up making the playoffs. So it's a weird spot when you're at that spot, so you're not really able to get a super high draft pick that can potentially change like your team's trajectory, but you're not out of the lottery. So it's kind of hard for you to build off of that and especially you're in New Orleans, so not a lot of people really want to go there. It's not like a free agents like destination that people want to go, and the
yeah, it's
development,
not.
I feel like
Yeah,
the fact that Dyson Daniels goes to Atlanta and then now he's a potential DPOY, first team all defense, it's kind of crazy. Like, I think it sounds like it's more so like a training staff or something situation.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they're
for
getting these
sure.
guys injured and they can't really have them stay healthy for the whole season. So, I mean, it's happened. I mean, like you said, Zion, Bi,
Oh
Lonzo,
man,
like the list goes
the
on.
list goes on.
I think
Yeah,
Dyson Daniels at a certain point when he played for them was
was hurt,
injured. So it's like Trey Murphy, you got Dejounte
hurt,
Murray, you got CJ
hurt.
McCollum, you
They,
hurt.
they got another. What's
Derek
what's the
Queen
other
just
guy
barely
who
started
could
playing.
shoot? What's his name?
Jordan
Jordan something.
Hawkins
Jordan Hawkins, bro, hurt.
hurt.
He's good too, though.
Good. That's
Man, Jordan
so.
Hawkins is good.
It sounds like it's like a. I mean, I don't want to bash him, but it's from outside looking in. It just seems like it's like a training, like
Training
medical
staff issue,
training
yeah.
staff. Like, I don't know what y'all are doing, or if you're not letting him recover. But injuries have been killing him. Long story short, and I feel like they're also not in a bad spot though. It's kind of crazy to say that. Like, if they could stay healthy, they can be a play-in team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
not even
yeah.
a question. It's just if they can stay
Nah.
healthy. Like you said,
Can they?
their
Yeah.
best player. It potentially potential best player, one of the top 25 players in the league. When he's healthy, you know what he can be, but it's when he can stay healthy, and that's the issue with the Pelicans. Like, you said it perfectly, so not real
Yeah,
much
bro.
else to say.
No, yeah, and you brought up a really good point. Like, they've made the playoffs.
Yeah,
This is one of the teams that on this list, and the next one too, that have made the playoffs. You could say they've had some success,
yeah,
but it hasn't translated to further success or future success. And I know the Pelicans want to be good in 10 years, not just right now. So they're still trying to figure out what to do, because the Zion timeline is so it's crazy. It's one of like the craziest stories in NBA history. But
yeah,
moving right along, man, we're going to Phoenix. We're talking about the Suns, man, and Devin Booker, Jalen Green. They lost Kevin Durant. They lost Bradley Beal. I would argue that the Bradley Beal move was smart on their decision to buy him out, even though there's no return with that. But trading away Kevin Durant, they were able to acquire Jalen Green in the number 10 pick, which turned into Kamal Malawat. And honestly, yeah, you said this earlier before we were, chopping it up about the tiers in the Western Conference, but the Suns have a pretty interesting roster, and
yeah,
uh, if they make the right moves and if they can stay healthy again, Devin Booker, Jalen Green, that's a potentially 55, 56 point scoring backcourt right there. And so
yeah,
if other guys can pick up the slack, Grayson Allen, a couple other pieces as well, right, are done. it's going to be interesting, bro. It's definitely the Suns are not the worst lottery risk team on this list. I think they're probably the best out of all of them, but we'll just have to see the product that they put out on the floor. The one thing that I will say that the other teams have over them is just some sort of continuity. The Suns, know, they have a different coach. They have a completely different roster, completely different players. It's going to be tough to figure that out from day one, even with the couple months of off-season practice that they will have. I think that's going to impact them the first month of the season. You'll probably see them start off pretty slow because guys just aren't used to playing with each other, and it takes 60, 70 games of, over the course of a season to really get used to that. And, teams like the Blazers and, the Pels to some extent, like they have some of that continuity. So it'll be interesting, bro. Like Matt Ishbia, we've spoke about, his owner style and how he likes to spend money at will and what that's done for the franchise. But now it seems like they've turned around. And I was gonna, I have this question for you. You think they had a pretty good offseason? Because I would argue they've completely changed the course of their franchise in terms of where they were headed for the next 4 to 5 years. I don't know if it's franchise altering moves
Right.
because 10 years, 20 years is a long time. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think they had a great offseason, bro. I think just being able to get off that Bradley Beal contract just kind of said something to me that y'all are trying to get away from this situation. Like you tried it out, it didn't work, and now it's kind of on to the next plan. Like, what are we doing? And
Hey,
I mean, y'all were able to get a good young player in Jalen Green, and you get Malawat, so it's kind of like uh, going into the right direction. Y'all have youth, and you have you know potentially your best like franchise player of all time in Devin Booker, and you're kind of building around him now. So I think it's a like I was saying earlier, knowing where you're at in your timeline and just being aware of that, I think that's kind of where the Suns were. And it's like we said, if they end up being a play-in team, we won't be that surprised. It's just kind of if they can figure it out in a quick enough time. The being that the season is about to start and they haven't really played any basketball together as a team, so it's gonna be interesting to see what they can be. But like you said, seeing Jalen Green and Devin Booker is gonna be kind of, like I said, very intriguing to me. So we'll see how it turns out. And I'm pretty sure they're gonna be getting buckets, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think that's gonna
oh
be the
yeah,
issue. I think it's gonna be more so like a defense thing. But that's kind of why
yeah.
you got uh, Mark Williams and your draft pick. So Ryan Dunn, yeah, Grayson Allen, yeah, that's,
They got some
they got
guys,
some
bro.
guys, bro.
It's not all bad over there,
Yeah,
man. And I think they've done a good job of weathering the storm. They've made a couple interesting moves over the last couple of years, and I was like, I think they should have kept Bol even just to see
what
what he
he
could
could
do.
be. Yeah,
But yeah, like you never know. But we'll have to see what Jalen Green and Devin Booker can give them. It's going to be a very high scoring backcourt, very interesting season. But moving right along to the next tier, bro. We're in tier three. We're in the play-in hopefuls. All of these teams can potentially make the play-in, or we think on three-man weave they could potentially make the play-in. And we'll start it right off, man, with the Sacramento Kings. I feel like they've plateaued. Sabonis is efficient, man. DeRozan, Levine are super clutch, very good. DeRozan's the clutch mid-range killer. Levine is the athletic three-point, wing who could kind of do it all. But unfortunately, their roster has not improved very much. Yeah, Keegan Murray, Keon Ellis, a couple guys have developed pretty nicely, but that hasn't added up to a lot of wins. Unfortunately, getting bounced in the play-in last year, getting embarrassed, it signaled to me that this franchise is in the same spot that they have been for the last 3 4 years, which is the plan. 9 10 seed, the
yeah,
best that they're gonna do. Not horrible again, but not very good. And I think Sacramento. I'm from the Sac, man. When the rubber meets the road, losing De'Aaron Fox, losing Tyrese Halliburton, see what they could have potentially had with those two players still on that roster. It's an interesting thing, man, to see where they got the Bulls roster with Sabonis now, and they're kind of hacking along. They're trying to figure it out, and it's been difficult, bro. I think getting rid of Mike Brown was also another interesting decision. A super, very winning head coach and somebody who built a lot of continuity in Sacramento. And to me, it just doesn't really seem like the direction's clear on where they're going. All those other teams that are in the lottery risk section they have some idea of where they're headed. I would argue the Kings are the first team that really is a question mark.
Yeah.
They're very old. They're older. They're one of the older teams in the league, while also trying to build younger players like a Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray, and I was gonna say, bro, Keegan Murray doesn't go off next year. Like, who knows? They could trade him.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be okay. Like, I think that timeline might be coming to an end as well in Sacramento.
Yeah. Yeah, Keon or not Keon Ellis. Keegan Murray had a crazy rookie year, and really since then he's kind of regressed in a sense. You know, he hasn't
Yeah, like
performed up to that year pretty much, and I think that's kind of what they were expecting him to do. And you know, like you said, trading away De'Aaron Fox this past season just kind of showed me where they're trying to go in their with their future, and obviously that's with Sabonis. And you know, I love Sabonis as a player, just kind of the way he is, but I don't know if he is a huge fact, or he can't. I don't believe he can be the best player on a championship team in my eyes. I think he's a great second, maybe third piece, but just kind of the way that his play style is. If you have him on your team, more than likely he's going to be your best player just because of how impactful he is on the offensive side of the ball. And it's kind of hard when you're not like a Jokic being able to hit 3-point shots and stuff. I feel like that's the only thing from his game that's really missing. If he could do that, then this might be a different conversation. But as of right now, he doesn't really have that reliable of a 3-point shot, and the way his game is, it's not hard to build around. It's just where the Kings are at, they don't really have, like you said, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine. But I feel like that's kind of we've seen what that can do already. Like it can win you
yeah,
games, but I don't know if you're going to make it past the first round of a playoff. So,
especially in the West.
yeah,
My
especially
goodness.
in the West. But I think Sabonis is gonna have a great year though. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like kind of
probably lead the
just
league in rebounding.
yeah, like he has been. So it's interesting to see that, and you know, I'm interested to see what Nick Cleaford could be. They actually that's the
Okay.
yeah Nikkei, yeah, he I think that's the pick that they traded to get from us. So
Yeah, bro. First team all summer team.
hmm
Very good.
but
Yeah, I like Clifford, bro. He's good.
yeah, no, yeah, he's
They got
we'll,
Schroeder too.
we'll see. Yeah, it's crazy to keep saying this, but like they don't. Their roster isn't terrible. It's just kind of I don't like you said earlier. I don't know if they even know where they're at and what they're trying to
Yeah, they're
do
like
as a team. It's like you're in the middle
they
each year. You could potentially make a playoff run, or you could potentially
or tank.
be in the
Yeah,
lottery. So it's kind of hard to. It all depends on the
hard to
development of
gauge.
their roster throughout the season, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. I think this next team is hard to gauge as well. One of the oldest rosters that we have in the NBA. It's none other than the Golden State Warriors, man, with Draymond, Steph, and Jimmy. They are aging. We spoke about it on the show. Kuminga is not a sure bet. Their window is closing, bro, but the experience shines, man. So I think this keeps them in the play-in range. As long as they can keep their veterans healthy, I think Steph Curry is enough to really get them there. But they are no longer a contending team, and the Warriors faithful, they're approaching a rebuild, man. I was gonna bring that up to you. You know, I wasn't even gonna ask you the question because I know you can see it on the horizon. But yeah, some of these teams got to break it down before they can build it up. And I think Dub Nation is gonna be L Nation in a few years, and that's gonna be okay, man. I think the Warriors kind of know that this is Steph Curry's sunset, his last ride, his last couple seasons, and they only have that window of opportunity while he's there to really compete for a finals. And even that, doing that right now in this Western Conference is extremely difficult. We haven't really seen the extreme development of Moses Moody, Pods, or Kuminga. Hopefully that changes this year. Hopefully Steve Kerr just bites the bullet and plays those guys 35 minutes. But Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry are more than enough to win you a playoff series, maybe even two. Those guys are extremely dangerous in a playoff scenario. So our insight over here at Three Man Weave, we're not going to count the Warriors out. They may suck, they may not always be healthy, and they might be old, but man, them boys can hoop, especially in the playoff scenario. So they're definitely a playing hopeful for sure. They got a good roster.
Yeah, yeah,
Not no center,
no
but they
center,
have enough.
no
They have
center,
enough.
but you have Steph and you have Jimmy, and that, like you said it's enough to win a playoff series, maybe even two. So can never count them out, and I feel like they're going to be kind of what they were this past season. You know what I mean? They have more experience together, so the record might be a little bit better, but I think it might be kind of like just like waves, you know what I mean? Like it'll be like good
Yeah,
moments and then they'll go on a little losing streak, or they might go on a 10-game win streak and then start losing and just kind of back and forth. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting. Just if, they got to stay healthy for one, and I'm pretty sure one of those three that we talked about are probably going to get injured at certain parts of the season. So it's kind of bound to happen. But I think if they make the playoffs, which we like we said, you've been saying, we think they're a team that can do that, and that's all they really need. So when you have those two players of when you have the chef and
yeah,
the
it's more
butler,
than
so it's kind of hard to bet
oh,
against them.
bro, it's more than enough. And yeah, like Quentin Post,
Mm-hmm.
Trace Jackson Davis, like they got a couple interesting forwards. They just got to figure out what
What
their rotations are going to be, man. Like
Where's
I have
Kaminga
no,
gonna be?
I don't know, bro. I don't even know if they're going to re-sign him. Like they're gonna, I don't know. They're gonna have to figure out a lot. If they re-sign him too, they're going to the apron. That team's going to be expensive, and they're not going to be very good. So, uh, yeah, interesting place to be if you're a Dubs Nation fan. But like I said, y'all are on the horizon of rebuilding. So enjoy these next couple seasons with Steph Curry. But we're gonna head out to Dallas, man. Go to capture the flag. We're gonna talk about the Dallas Mavericks. They've lost Luka Doncic. Newsflash. Kyrie is out with that torn ACL, unfortunately, but Cooper Flag is here with the capture the flag, and Anthony Davis remains dangerous. And so us over here at Three Man Weave, that's going to be a recipe for an interesting season. Playing in the definitely in the mix. As long as their supporting cast can do something. Not Najee Marshall. That's the main guy that I'm looking at, kind of their X factor, somebody who's you could look to score 12, 14 points. They just have a lot of glue guys on that team, a lot of guys who can do a bunch of different things, and I think that's going to help Cooper Flag and Anthony Davis kind of man the offensive responsibilities. And Cooper Flag is going to get a lot of opportunities, man. Don't be surprised if he's rookie of the year. That's an obvious statement, but you guys are going to be extremely happy with the amount of touches that he gets. I know Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison are really focused on turning around that Dallas sentiment because of what happened with Luka. They're trying to really get back to the NBA Finals. Dallas is also, I would say, is a team that has that chance to go to the finals. Same with the Warriors, right? Just because of that pedigree, it kind of runs in their franchise. They've been there recently. Those guys know what it takes. They just haven't been able to get the output over the last few seasons due to some injuries. Derek Lively, Gafford, like they're going with the two bigs. They've actually been one of the teams who's had that for the last couple seasons,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of shows the continuity that the Mavericks are building. And again, they gotten off of the Josh Green, the Grant Williams timeline, the Luka Doncic and co. Now it's Cooper Flag's time, bro. They're really trying to build around him, and I honestly don't think they would be too angry to have a poor season because that means they'd be able to build through the draft with
Get another
Kyrie and AD coming back again.
Cooper
And
Flag
so,
second year.
yeah, Cooper Flag, right? So eh, if they do end up sucking, I don't think for the Mavericks it's not the worst thing in the world, but I don't think they are. I think they're going to make the plan for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think. I mean, we talked about it whenever the trade happened, and we're talking about it now. Beginning of the in the off season, just because I thought that trade for them was great at the time. Obviously, I didn't know AD was going to get injured. I didn't know Kyrie was going to get injured right after that. But the fact that they're able to get Cooper Flag on top of where they're already at in their timeline, and with you have a player to the caliber of AD, it's a great situation for them. You have one of the best power forward centers in the league, and now you have one of the best prospects that we've had these past couple of seasons. So it's kind of just building on top of that. Like you said, I think they're gonna be pretty good. Honestly, I feel
Yeah,
like you said, rookie of the year type of year for Cooper Flag. He's just gonna get a lot of touches and kind of show us the type of player that he has been pretty much his whole life. So it's gonna be interesting to see what who's gonna be like that next one up. You know what I mean? Like we were saying,
yeah.
Najee Marshall.
Najee.
Yeah, I think I like that pick. Or shit, maybe even a great season from Clay. You know what I mean? Like he just has a bounce back
Corey.
season. Like he doesn't need to average 20, but if he could get 15 to like 17,
Yeah,
18, like
14, 15. Yeah.
that'd be a
So
solid piece for them. And I think it's gonna be interesting to see who is gonna be taking a lot of like the initiating the ball, because they have D'Angelo Russell, who's a great point guard, but he's gonna be starting for until Kyrie comes. So we'll kind of see what that kind of turns into. I mean,
yeah, I know,
he
right?
played for the
What are they gonna
Lakers.
do with that backcourt?
Right.
Man,
So we'll
that's
see.
cool.
But I think Cooper Flag's gonna get a lot of touches, and I think he's gonna be a main initiator at certain points of their offense. So we'll see. It's gonna be exciting, man. Like
Yeah.
they're a big
I'll
lineup, and they've been running, like you said, the double big for a couple years now. So they kind of been ahead of the turn, I guess. So
Don't be surprised if you see LeBron in Dallas Mavericks jersey like the last year of his career. I could see that. That's the
really,
one team. Yeah, that's the one team. Because Kyrie and
Cooper
AD and Flag,
Flag.
and he'd be willing to take less money. But
That
hey,
would be
we
five
that,
five number one picks, huh? On one team.
yeah,
That's crazy.
that would be cool.
That would be
Oh, that'd be
crazy.
cool. Um, Man, no, yeah, but that wraps up the playing hopefuls for sure. We did tier four, it was lottery, and then tier three was playing hopefuls. We're moving right along to the should be playoff teams. Now, these are the teams that we think are going to firmly make the playoffs. And man, San Antonio, stand up. We're gonna start off with the San Antonio Spurs, man. Victor Wembanyama is back, cleared to play. Now with competent guard play in the mix as well, with De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper in the mix. There's really not much more you can say other than San Antonio is dangerous. I would argue they're just as good as the Lakers, if not better, especially when they're fully healthy.
Yeah.
So watch out for this team. This is a team that could definitely skip some of these teams that we have coming up. Wembenyama is so dangerous. If you haven't gotten an opportunity to watch him, what are you doing? A 7'3" demigod who can shoot threes and dribble like a point guard. It's pretty crazy. And yeah, their upside on defense and offense is just so high because of what he can do. Adding Carter Bryant, they added Luke Cornett as well to back up Wemby and potentially play that two big lineup like you're talking about. And it's just going to be really interesting to see what's the first year of we know Mitch is the head coach for good. No Pop. I think
No
the
pop. Wow.
Spurs
Yeah.
the Spurs organization is going to feel a little different this year, and I think it's going to be an interesting product that they put out on the court. But I know it's going to be a good one, bro. And I think De'Aaron Fox is going to have a great season. Look for him to average 20, 22 points on good efficiency. I just think him and Wemby being able to play 82 games is going to be a very scary sight for the league. And what they've been able to do just over the last few seasons through the draft, bro. Like they've really built up this roster around Wemby. Even having some of the veteran guys on the team, but also all the young cats that they got on the roster. It's going to add up to a combination of greatness. And I know San Antonio's turning that corner of being one of the most dangerous teams that we have in the NBA. And like I said, I would not be shocked to see them skip, the Grizzlies, the Timberwolves, teams like that, just because of Wembanyama and all the other pieces that they got. They still have Vassell, they still got Keldon Johnson. Like they got a full team, bro,
Dude,
and it's
bro.
gonna be very scary.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's you said it perfectly, bro. It's they can definitely be probably the surprise of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised personally, because I feel like
Yeah,
I've kind of we've seen it, we've kind of
we see it.
saw what they've been able to build, just specifically when they were able to draft Wemby, and then since then just kind of put in the right type of players around him, getting good backup bigs for him, like you said, like the Luke Cornets, and they also got Kelly Olynyk. So, and just the draft, like you said, being able to get so many like additions that are exactly what you're missing, or exactly what a kind of teams are needing to win basketball games now. And like you said, Carter Bryant, what he was able to do defensively in the summer league was incredible, and just kind of being able to be like a point of attack defender. It's he's able to literally just like, all right, just attack the ball or try to stop the ball anytime you get it gets near you, and just kind of
Yeah,
the
90
potent
feet.
90 feet just picking up the ball the whole time. And just like you said, if when we get a full healthy season of Wemby, this is going to be his DPOY year, and maybe even potential like dark horse MVP candidate type of deal. I can see them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could see them getting potentially like a top 5 seed in this
yeah.
year. I would not be
Get
surprised.
the
So
wins. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's gonna be
yeah, I
exciting. I'm
agree.
excited to see what Dylan Harper can do as well. I haven't really brought him up at all, but I think him, Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox is gonna be a very interesting mix of guards to kind of being put together. So I'm interested to see what Mitch Johnson can cook up over there, and kind of see who can show us who is the best guard on the team. Obviously Stephon Castle has that rookie of the year run, and then we also have De'Aaron Fox, who's a top 10 guard in this league as well. So we'll see what that turns into, and then you have the number 2 pick and you draft Dylan Harper. So crazy, crazy, crazy lineup that they have. And like you said, they're kind of like the Thunder in a sense that they just have so much depth at every position, and they're young, and they also have really good veterans that are kind of a key fact or like a piece that they're missing in their lineup. So excited to see what they can do. I'm not a Spurs fan. We live in Austin, bro. So
Definitely
we
not.
we we uh,
Definitely
we we
not.
see them all the time. I see a lot of Spurs fans, and I tell them, I'm like, man,
Yeah,
y'all are gonna be good in a couple years. Carlos is a Spurs fan, so I kept telling him, I'm like, bro, just give it a couple years. Y'all are gonna be good again, and I think this could be
oh
that
yeah,
year. So ready to see what they can do this year,
100%.
I guess.
Yeah, it's the year of Wembanyama, as I'm calling it. But moving right along, man, we're going out to LA. My team, the Los Angeles Lakers, and yeah, Luka Doncic is here. LeBron's window is closing. We know Austin Reeves is growing into a special player. I think the additions of Aiton and Marcus Smart are going to add a lot of value to our roster. We should make the playoffs pretty comfortably. Winning. We got the what was it, the third seed last year behind the Rockets and the Thunder. So
Mm-hmm.
we performed pretty well. I think JJ's outcoached a lot of the other coaches in the NBA too. We have really good schemes that allow for our players to play to their strengths, right? He doesn't put Jackson Hayes in places that he knows Jackson Hayes isn't going to succeed, aka behind the 3 point line. He
Right.
sticks him on the dunker spot. But yeah, I think our team is just continuing to mesh, man. I think it'll be interesting to see how we play with the new players that we have. I'm excited to see the Luca uh, 8 and pick and roll. I know that's going to be pretty dangerous, and I'm excited to see what LeBron got, man. At his age, just seeing what he can do as a witness, it's just pretty crazy watching him go at this basketball shit every single season. It just doesn't seem like he's slowing down. I'm excited he's on our roster, though. I know he's going to provide a lot of punch, and hopefully they put Bronny in there as well. No BS. I think he's developed into a pretty good player, and I think he deserves to play 10 to 15 minutes a night on an NBA roster. He's shown me, especially in the summer league, that he's strong enough, athletic enough. He's been shooting the right type of shots. I think he was rushing early in his career, and he seemed like the game has finally slowed down. Our bench worries me a little bit. We did lose Jordan Goodwin. We lost Dorian Finney-Smith. The depth that we have isn't the best, but I think we've shown that when we have our guys and they're healthy, we're a very dangerous team. If LeBron, AR, and Luka Doncic are out there any given night, be warned. I think that's a trio right there that can get you 75 points
Yeah.
in a night, and so that's extremely dangerous, and any team will be lucky to have that. So hopefully we can build around those guys, put something good together for this upcoming season. But I think we'll make the playoffs pretty comfortably, top 6 seed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree too, bro. I think when you have players to the caliber of LeBron and Luca, it's hard to bet against that. And just kind of the little portion size that we were able to see of y'all whenever you were healthy and kind of clicking at the right time, y'all are definitely a playoff team. And you were saying that all this past season, and I as I'm watching y'all play, I'm like, oh yeah, no, there definitely are. So it's hard to think that y'all aren't going to be. I think it just kind of boils down to y'all's depth. I think you brought it up perfectly. You have a really good starting five. It's kind of from there besides Marcus Smart and Jared Vanderbilt, like you said, or I don't know if you brought him up, but of course, just kind of what if he can be take that next step offensively. I
Gotta
think
be
it
healthy.
yeah, be healthy. It's kind of hard. He plays great defense, but it's kind of he doesn't really do anything else besides that. But um, I'm also interested to see kind of what Connect can do this year. I know that I don't know, that whole trade situation. I'm assuming it's something he probably thinks about. No, you don't? Do you think so or
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like,
yeah,
I don't think JJ is gonna play him a ton.
really?
Um, yeah, probably play him like some,
Yeah.
but he's like athletic, bro. I like Connects a lot.
No,
It's a shame.
he's a good.
Palinka, I don't think Palinka likes him though.
Mm, but
Not like personally, but like as the player that he is, he doesn't see that much value.
gotcha. But yeah, no, yeah, I think like you said it. I think y'all are you're a well capable playoff team in the NBA, especially in the Western Conference. And when you have like you said, AR, Luca, Braun, it's a great trio to have offensively, and when it's hard to bet against that any given day. So we'll see what y'all can do, and I'm hoping Aiton has a great season. Honestly, like a little bounce back season, kind of proves himself and. He's
I'm
able to get
looking
a
for
payday.
14 and 10, bro.
14 and
Like
10.
that's it, bro. Like
Solid.
yeah, like that would be a solid season.
Mm-hmm.
If he gave us any more than that, then that would be like a stellar season from him.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
um, well, I'm excited though. I think we'll make the playoffs pretty comfortably. But this next team, bro, going to out to Tennessee, going to Memphis. Talking about the Grizzlies for a second. John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. No more Desmond Bain. They got Jalen Wells. They got G.G. Jackson. Super interesting squad, bro. Zach Edey. I think they have a lot of interesting pieces in Memphis. Mm, I think them boys have been humbled over the last 3 to 5 seasons just because of all the talk, all the chatter that they run the West and blah blah blah. I don't think they really run the West. I think they're still trying to figure out the direction that their franchise is going. I think John Morant getting suspended for the gun really hurt them a couple years ago, and it's really killed their timeline. I think that completely changed the course of the Grizzlies franchise. They're still trying to figure out if they can really get past the second round of the playoffs. They've had it. Yeah, I would say a pretty unlucky playoff draws, but you still got to play the 1 seed, and they did not perform last playoff, so kind of signaled to me that they were declining more so than progressing, and that's a big issue, especially when you have two really talented players in John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And those two players, I would argue, again, all stars pretty much every year if they're healthy. One of the best players that we have in the NBA, but when you don't surround them with good pieces, then you kind of get what you're getting right now, and that's first round exits, maybe high seeds, good regular seasons, right, but not good playoff runs. And ultimately, all of these teams are playing for NBA championship. We know Memphis has never won a championship, so they're also looking to do that as well for the first time in their franchise history. And I don't know, man. It'll be interesting, bro. I hope that they can do so. It'd be really cool to see John Morant raise a Larry O'Brien trophy. But to be honest with you, I was going to ask you this question. You think John Morant will ever win an NBA championship in his career?
Mm,
Because I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Honestly,
Isn't that sad?
that is very sad.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Damn. Yeah.
And that's,
Neither do I.
a couple years ago, I may have answered differently, but I've just seen like the way the NBA is going. It's just really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Like the older that you get, and he's missed time due to things that aren't like injuries. Like he's missed time because of the
Actions
stuff that
off the
he's had
court.
going on. Yeah, and the altercations and just a lot of it's kind of some dark things going on in the Memphis organization for sure. I know they've like that you would think kind of behind the lights you see all these young players, they're all very good, and it's all great, but it just hasn't led to playoff success.
Yeah. It's crazy because I think we've talked about how great their development staff is. It seems like they've dealt with so many like obviously injuries, but other things like you said, like the whole John Morant situation, and I feel like you said that kind of ruined their timeline in a sense because they were, they said they were fine in the West at one point, and ever since then they haven't really been healthy as a whole unit. Obviously with Desmond Bain and then his departure, but even when they had Jalen Wells this past season, Zach Edey kind of was injured a lot. So they get a lot of injuries, but they have great depth, so it kind of makes up for it. But I feel like that's kind of stunting their growth because they haven't really seen what all the good their young core kind of can do when healthy together. So I think it's gonna be interesting to see what they can do this year. I think, like you said, when you have Ja and Triple J on your team, that's all-star player, more than likely, potentially all NBA. So it sucks because you're a good enough roster to make it to the playoffs every year, but you can't really make it past the first round, potentially getting to the second round, So it's kind of sucks to say it, but yeah, I don't think Ja's gonna ever win a championship in Memphis, at least.
I hope he proves us wrong, man, for sure. Because I was excited to see his career play out,
Me
and some of
too.
those things have been, the roadblocks have been tough. But we're going out to cold like Minnesota. We're going to Minnesota Timberwolves, my man. Talk about Ant for a second. We know he's him. Rudy Gobert's still on the squad. I would argue Julius Randle's their most interesting piece coming up this next season. Seeing what he did in the playoffs, hopefully he can continue that going into next year. But they lost Nikhil Alexander Walker. I would argue they've gotten a little bit worse since last year, so that's not a good thing. But they are still a highly competitive team, one of the best defensive teams that we have in the NBA. I think Anthony Edwards is, like you asked me before we got on, but potential MVP candidate this year, definitely top 6, 7. There's nobody in this league who could stop his ascension. I think he's shown us what he could do from deep last season. So look for him to add something new to his game this year, whether it's pick and roll, maybe it's assists, maybe it's rebounding. But I know it's going to be something new with Anthony Edwards now that we know he's got that strap. Pause. But yeah, bro, like seeing where Minnesota's, I think Rob Dillingham has been interesting, bro. He hasn't really gotten on the court. They're gonna have to play. They're gonna have to play some of their guys that weren't able to get in the game because of people like Nikhil Alexander Walker. That dude definitely took up a big roster chunk, played a lot of minutes. So I think some of those minutes are gonna go to a Rob Dillingham. Jay McDaniels, Dante DiVincenzo, they still got a really good roster around Ant. So I'm just going to be really interested to see what he can do. Last season running into that roadblock, it's just very difficult whenever you go up against a really good team like the Thunder and you recognize all of your weaknesses. I think that's what happened in Minnesota. I've heard Alex Rodriguez speak about how they're training to get better. Terrence Shannon Jr. says he's in the gym all the time. They have a really good developmental staff as well. So I think Minnesota is going to be rolling right along for next season. I don't think they'll miss the playoffs. They're going to be a top 6 seed, but it just depends. As long as Ant is healthy, right? God forbid anything happens to him, but he's been healthy. He's one of the more healthy superstars that we have in the league. So yeah, excited to see where Minnesota's going, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like you said, I think they did get a little worse, but I think when you have a player at Ant's caliber and just kind of y'all have been building a lot of like continuity with each other, and I think when that is a thing whenever they had, like you said, Julius Randle kind of being their most interesting, extension or someone that they brought back for the foreseeable future, kind of what he was able to prove to us this past season, especially specifically in the playoffs. For me, obviously they ran into the Thunder, so it was kind of, it is what it is at that point. But just the fact that they were the Cinderella story throughout the playoffs. They obviously met y'all in the first round, beat y'all in 5, and then ended up beating you know, Curryless Golden State Warriors. They ended up beating them. They beat them in 5 too, right?
They just ran into that buzzsaw, bro.
Yeah. And so
Thunder, bro.
but back to back
Buzzsaw.
years making it to the conference finals, especially Western Conference Finals. Just I think they're building off of that. I'm hoping to see a more run for Rob. I don't know if you brought that up, but that's something I'm really wanting to see. I feel like just with him, it's just kind of his size. He's a little bit on the skinnier side, so it's a little bit harder for him to play defense. But I think offensively, he's probably one of the best kind of like spark plug type of guys. Just come up, get some buckets. So interested to see him, and obviously Nas Reed getting that extension, kind of see if he's worth that
Big
money.
Jelly.
Yeah, see, I think he is. I think obviously sixth man of the year a couple years ago, and just kind of what he's able to do for the roster. I know we talked about this before with like paying certain people like a certain price tag, and if you would rather just have them come off the bench. I think if it's projected to for their starting roster to be what ESPN has right now, he would be coming off the bench. So I think it kind of makes sense, just kind of the roster that they have. But I think he's probably going to be getting a lot of run regardless. He's that type of player, like a James Harden when he was on the Thunder type of vibe. Like essentially, like yes, he's a six man, but he's probably going to be getting like 30 plus minutes a game type of deal. So kind of see that happening. But yeah, no, I'm excited to see what they can do, man. Like you said, just Ant, if he can stay healthy, is one of the best players in the league, potential MVP, and just kind of seeing what else he can do to improve his odds of making it to the finals. Because making conference finals back to back years, expectations are kind of a little high for you. So we'll see how that turns out, and I'm excited to see what they can do, man. Like you said, it gets cold in cold like Minnesota, bro, for sure.
What? For sure. They've been feeling the vibes though, bro. They've been doing a really good job, and we'll see. Like they can. I think they're kind of in the fake success part, where like they're thinking that they're better than they are,
Mm,
but Anthony Edwards gives them a chance.
so
Any
much hope.
potential, like yeah, there's just anytime you tip the ball and that guy's on the same court, anything can happen. But
Hmm.
anyways, you ready to chop it up about the contenders? We finally made it here, my man.
Yes, sir. Let's get it.
All right. No, wait. I think I
Oh, you
have
got
one
one
more. We
more?
still got to talk about the clips.
Got you, got you.
Yeah, we still got to talk about the clips. Because that's our offseason file. But yeah, the Clippers could be a contender, but I don't think so due to age. Um, yeah, I think they're going to make the playoffs pretty firmly, but they'll have to do a really good job of managing their age. Just the injury concern is very high. Adding Bradley Beal to the mix is really good, bro. I would argue he's better than Norman Powell, like easily. Chris Paul doesn't give them a ton in the offensive department outside of the passing. I think James Harden is a similar player who does more on the offensive end. So it'll be interesting to see what he can continue to do in the pick and roll, how they build around Bradley Beal, what kind of looks that he gets. And then Kawhi Leonard, man, if he can stay healthy, I think the Clippers are going to be a really big problem in the West. But Kawhi hasn't been healthy all the time, but when he has, bro, we've seen the same vintage Kawhi that always appears, and that's really good for the Clippers, and that's one of the main reasons why he's still on that roster. Whenever we break down their balance sheet, you guys will see that they're in a pretty good standing moving forward. They are a fairly older roster, like I've mentioned a few times, but they pay a pretty good penny for the players that they have on their team. So adding John Collins to the mix, Brooke Lopez as well. They've got a lot of options. Chris Dunn. They got a lot of interesting pieces that have been moving around, and they're looking to build off of that. The Clippers. I am never going to speak highly of the Clippers, but Tyronn Lue, I gotta respect what Steve Ballmer's doing over there, and I will say this: Intuit Dome is the coolest arena in basketball. I do want to visit. I
Yeah.
do want to visit. It's definitely a very cool arena. So I'll give props. I'll give credit where credit is due.
Right. Yeah, no, fair enough, bro. That arena is insane. But yeah, like you said, bro,
Yeah,
it's the only thing with them that I'm worried about, I think I brought this up whenever we first talked about them as well, whenever, Chris Paul and stuff signed with them, but just kind of the age. I mean, you brought it up as well. I think that's a huge factor for me. Not saying that you can't be successful if you're an older team in this league, but I think just kind of where everyone's timeline on that roster is kind of at is the tail end of their career, specifically CP. Not saying he was going to be a huge contributing factor, but obviously he's there and he can play a role in that. But just kind of where Harden, Kawhi, and Beal are at, just kind of seeing if they can be healthy for a whole season. Like you said, I think Kawhi You don't need to play 65 games for me at this point in your career, Kawhi. You know, like if you do, great, but if not, it's kind of we know what you can do in the playoffs, like you said, and we get those glimpses. And if he could just have a full, healthy, postseason run, I think that can potentially be a championship. So it's kind of hard to bet against the type of players that they've been building throughout this offseason, and with just kind of the roster that they've built. It became, I feel like it was pretty underrated throughout this whole season, and they kind of had a defensive identity, and they had James Harden initiating the offense and having Kawhi be there at moments, and then obviously Norman Powell, but you get Bradley Beal now. I feel like we brought that up whenever he signed with them. It's kind of like they lost someone, but they gained what he was good at right back. So I'm excited to see what they can be, man. Like I said, the only knock I have against them is their age, but if they could stay healthy, I think they're definitely like a top 4 seed in the Western Conference this upcoming year.
100%, bro. I agree. Yeah, and we're in the last tier finally. We got three teams in this contending tier. These teams are the best teams in the NBA, pretty simply put. To start it off, bro, we're gonna talk about Denver. I mean, there's not much to really say here other than MPJ left. They got Cam Johnson,
Johnson.
Christian Brown's pretty much their new number three, but having Nikola Jokic in the mix for any team is gonna immediately make you a contender. And luckily, the Nuggets have a lot of continuity. A lot of those guys have been on the roster for a few seasons now. They did lose their coach, but I think Adelman's done a really good job of changing up the strategic planning that they've been doing with basketball. And I think Nikola Jokic has been doing more on the court coaching and like taking over kind of what needs to happen, and that's been really good to see as well. I wouldn't be shocked to see him again top of the MVP race, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but when you have a Nuggets team that took the Thunder to 7 games, it's kind of hard to say that they're not a contending team. I think they were very, very close to beating the Thunder, who were a historically great team, and the Nuggets, with Aaron Gordon and with Jamal Murray and Christian Brown and Nikola Jokic and all Cam Johnson now. Like, I don't know what I don't think they have Russell, right?
No, they don't.
He's still a UFA.
Yep.
Yeah. So
But they
yeah,
got
that
they
I don't
got
know.
THJ, and they got
Okay,
Bruce
yeah,
Brown back.
for sure. And yeah, they got Bruce Brown, they got Strother, they got a lot of guys, bro. So if you're a Nuggets fan, you should be excited. They're obviously top 5 team in the NBA. It's just can they get over the hump of the Thunder, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw back-to-back Western Conference from finals run from them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like you said, they were able to take the Thunder to 7 this past, in this playoffs, and I feel like with the lack of depth that they had in that series, the fact that they were able to do that just kind of shows how great of a roster and how great of a player Jokic is. Obviously, they got better in this offseason. I would say they probably, besides this team that's up next, I would say they probably had one of the better off seasons. And we said, THJ. They have Bruce Brown, like I said earlier. I think that was it. But and they got Cam Johnson. So I
Yeah,
think the same type of player MPJ was. Maybe even better defensively and a lot cheaper. So they've been able to make a lot of moves, and like you said, it's hard to bet against a team that just took the NBA champs to 7 in the second round. So, and you have a proven, honestly, probably the best center I've ever seen personally, and the fact we've been able to see what he's been able to do with the roster. I mean, he's going into this season with a better roster, so I'm expecting them to be very good this year. So we'll
yeah,
see.
they
I'm
they,
excited.
they yeah, they are. They're so dangerous.
They're
So
so good.
yeah, you can't count them out ever. Same with this next team though. They're out of Houston now. Houston is immediately a title contender, adding Kevin Durant to the mix. We spoke about them on our offseason files, so I don't want to like re-dive into
Yeah.
it. But yeah, like the amount of pressure that's on Kevin Durant to perform, I just think is really high, and they'll have to do a lot to keep him healthy. But we've gone through every team, and besides the Thunder, obviously, you guys know it's number one.
Yeah,
But the Rockets are better than every other team we've listed. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Like on paper, and so in my opinion, you're looking at a bloodbath with these next three teams here. Like any of these teams could go to the Western Conference Finals. I think Durant completely changes the landscape of where Houston was headed, and having Ime Udoka, a defensive-minded coach, like the Rockets are going to be a top 10 defense, top 10 offense potentially in the NBA, just like the Thunder, and that's going to lead to a lot of regular season wins and hopefully a lot of playoff wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's exciting. I'm really just ready to see what this Rockets team looks like. I'm excited to see
Uh,
the
yeah,
defensively what they are going to be able to do, but just kind of the with the addition of Kevin Durant. Like we talk about it. Maybe if not the best, the best. I would say the best, the second best, whoever which you want to say, but just what he's going to be able to do with not having to have so much like he doesn't need to like lock in defensively. Like just go out there, get a bucket, and I'm excited to see what that can turn into. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Because
He's not the defensive stopper like you're
no,
saying that.
he doesn't need to
He's going to be
be.
like, we just need a bucket.
Yeah, maybe if he can even initiate the offense a little bit, I feel like that's also somewhere. I mean, obviously with Fred, but I think someone else to kind of create shots or like a shot creator type of thing or a playmaker type of deal, trying to create for other people. I think he could do that as well.
Yeah, of
So
course.
we'll see,
Yeah,
man.
Reed Shepard,
Mm-hmm.
Tari Eason, like they got a lot of guys. Jabari Smith, like they're gonna be able to play a lot of younger guys 30 plus minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a good thing for them. But yeah, this next team's the Thunder, bro. The NBA champions. Pretty simple. The best team in the NBA still. The roster's improved. They drafted Sorber. Topic is coming back. Everybody's coming back. Everybody's re-signed. I
Extended,
mean,
yep.
there's really not too much to add to that story. It's that picture's already painted, as I
Mm-hmm.
was gonna say. Uh, yeah, the Thunder are just extremely dangerous. The best team on defense, the best team on offense that we've seen in a long time, and I just give a lot of credit to Shea and Chet and Mark Dagnall, what he's been able to do over there for the culture, and they have the most continuity of any team on this list. All those guys have been around for multiple seasons, and the guys that they added, I Heart Caruso recently, like they're just glue pieces. Those guys don't need to be around teams for decades to add value. They can kind of go to any team and play the same way, and I think that's what makes them so special. But the Thunder have dogs, bro. We don't need to make this one too long of a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see if they can do it again.
Me too. Me too, bro. If we can, bro. If we can, that shit would be amazing.
If
If
Yeah,
yeah, no,
we'll
huge
see,
if.
bro. I think I got Nuggets Thunder in the Western Conference Finals.
Really, I can't be mad at that.
Yeah, I don't know if my Lakers are gonna go. We'll have to see if they show up and show out. But you ready to dive into the off-season files for the Clippers, man? We've waited a long time for this one. You want to kick it off, bro? You want to do the three players on
Yeah,
who they're building around?
yeah, for sure. I got you. So, to kind of kick off our off-season files, we usually do we split it into segments, and the first segment is going to be who they're building around. So we give three players from the roster that we as a collective we think we're whoever they're building around for their roster. And with the first person off of for the LA Clippers is going to be Kawhi Leonard. You know what I mean? I think kind of speaks
Of
for
course.
itself. Kind of anchoring the core on a 3-year, $150 million deal, player option in 2027, 2028. Despite injuries, Kawhi remains the two-way focal point and defensive leader of the franchise. I think it was a huge reason why he made our all playoff team, just kind of what he was able to do in that limited time, that series against the Nuggets, but just kind of we know the type of player Kawhi can be. I feel like a lot
X
of people.
Factor
Yeah,
Kawhi.
yeah. I feel like we there's some people that forget, but we definitely did not, and it's kind of incredible to see that he's still able to perform at that high of a level. Obviously, his question mark for his kind of career is really just injuries, but when healthy, we know what they can do, and he's definitely a part of the Clippers' foreseeable future. So, anything you want to say on that? Nope.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been healthy really. I think last year, just in the playoffs, he performed really well. But if they get a healthy Kawhi season, he's going to be great. I mean, he's one of the best players that I've ever seen, top 75 player in this league. Um, I don't know, man. I like. I think it's tough. The one thing I will say is he's the only player out of like really all the franchise players we've named that like you don't really know what you're gonna get if he's gonna play 60 games or if he's gonna play 20, and like that's I would argue that that's the only thing that's been hurting the Clippers. But outside of that, I think for the number, like you said, 3 years, 150, it's pretty cheap, pretty valuable for one of the best two-way players that we have in this league. So I got no complaints.
Yeah, yeah. So going on to the next one, I think this one's kind of obvious as well. Number two, we got James Harden. Now on a 2-year, $81.5 million contract with a player option in 2026 2027. He continues to be among the league leaders in assist rate and late game creativity. I think we talked about it a couple times already, but just kind of what James Harden was able to do for the Clippers this, the at the tail end of this last season, just kind of showed me that he still is, he is the system. When he said that, I feel like, especially at that moment in
Yeah.
his career, I was very skeptical, just trying to figure out if, James Harden was still going to be able to contribute to winning games. And I feel like this season he kind of showed me that he still is. And obviously that roster, we're going to break it down a little further, but just that roster is it's great defensively, super versatile, and just kind of fit the type of play style that James Harden is, and just kind of gives him the opportunity to make tough shots, or if he needs to, he could toss it into Zoo, or swing it out to Norman Powell, now Bradley Beal at this point, or Kawhi or whoever. So just kind of opened up the floor and just really had a great opportunity to remind us as basketball fans the type of player that James Harden has been his whole career and still is, maybe to a lesser extent, but can still win us basketball games and still give us exciting moments to watch on a Wednesday night. So yeah, James Harden, bro. Yeah, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, he's still one of the best players and one-on-one players we have in the NBA. Yeah, he's been a really good facilitator for them. I think he's, boosted their assist rate like I had in the outline, but he's just giving them the confidence that they have somebody else other than Kawhi who's going to be on the court. I think PG is more injury prone than James Harden has been over the last few seasons. I think James Harden's been really, really, really good for Ivica Zubac, who, I personally was going to have on this list if they didn't make a recent acquisition. And so I think it's interesting. He's definitely helped Zoo improve his career a lot, and he just makes all of the players around him better. I think that's what makes James Harden so special. Is like, yeah, he's the system, and yeah, he gets his own, but like he's also the system. Like he'd be getting other players involved.
Agreed. Yeah.
Players like a Nicholas Batum. Guys who need they can't really score off the dribble. They need somebody to pass them the ball to score, and so I think that's where James Harden's value really balloons. And to be honest with you, he's a top five point guard to me in this league. I think just from what he does from an assist perspective, besides from the scoring. I mean, you really true point guards like we're just now starting to come into the aliens, the point guard aliens. Shea 30, Luca 30, Curry 30. Like back then, if you scored 12 and you had 12 assists, like you were the man. You were the man as
Yeah.
a point guard. You did not have to get 20 and 12. And so I think expecting that is kind of it's a little questionable. But when James Harden's giving you 18 and 12, like I'm not gonna complain.
Right. Yeah, no, bro. It's like I said, he's like one of the best point guards I've seen in a very long time. Changed the game for, for better or for worse, whatever you think, but it changed the game nonetheless, and just kind of has been doing this for a decade. It's crazy to think, and then I feel like a lot of people don't appreciate kind of what James Harden has done for the league and just kind of the type of player he is. But going into the final one, third one that we have as a collective here at Three Man Weave, we got Bradley Beal. He just signed a 2-year, $10.98 million deal, including a player option in 2026 2027, after waiving nearly $14 million $14 million to exit his 110 million plus remaining Suns contract. Sport Rack lists his average cap hit at $5.35 million for this season. I feel like we talked about it kind of briefly already, just what Bradley Beal can provide for the Clippers in the absence of Norman Powell, and kind of is essentially a plug and play just for the type of player that they were going to be losing out on. Norman Powell exiting, but I think with him, just the fact that they're able to get the type of player he is for the type of money that they're paying whenever he just had a crazy insane contract, I think it is the reason why they're in such a, he is the third player essentially, just because of the type of the ability that he has on the court, and just where they're at as a collective. They are kind of missing someone else that can score, and Bradley Beal can do that for them, and he's not being asked to really create off of the dribble or be a lockdown defender. Like, they have all those things. He's coming there kind of in KD's type of situation where they're just kind of like, hey, go out there, get a bucket. We have all
Yeah,
these other good glue guy, championship type of pedigree players that can just kind of plug in near around you, and you could kind of show us why you were an all-star a couple years ago. So excited to see what he is. Was
yeah.
there anything else you wanted to talk about him?
Um, Not really, man. I think you hit it on the nose. I think he just gives them more scoring, and he just does different things than Norman Powell does, man. Able to score from the mid range, one of the only players to average 30 for back to back seasons. Definitely a special guy, and he just comes in, like you said, in a really good spot. Like, he doesn't have to do too much, and
Mm-hmm.
the only things they're going to ask him to do is score the ball, and luckily Bradley Beal's very good at that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's not going to be any problems with that. So I know Tyronn Lue is going to be able to deploy him correctly. And he's still a really good player. I brought it up when we did Phoenix, but we saw flashes of what Bradley Beal, the old Bradley Beal, especially when he was playing on the Suns. So I'm sure he'll be able to get right in the mix there in LA with the Clippers. So, there's really, they had one of the better off seasons out of any of the teams that we'll go through, especially for what was available. I'll hit on that a little bit later. But adding Bradley Beal is, I mean, he's an all-star caliber player for $10 million.
Yeah, crazy. That's why I was like, the
Yeah,
value for it. Obviously, you had to
and he
pay,
shifted
but
Zoo off the list.
mm-hmm.
You know, so pretty crazy right there. But the way that we break it down on this show too is we also take you guys through their cap situation, their financial flexibility. Um, they've allocated over $213 million total to their cap. Their cap includes their payroll, but it also includes their cap holds, which CJ has had a pretty fun,
Yeah,
a little task going through on Spotrac and looking at all these random players. You find out that they still owe money to them. So
crazy.
that's the number for the cap. The cap is different from total payroll. Their total payroll is $195 million, which puts them about middle tier in the league. They are $58 million over the cap, so they are in the tax. They are paying some pretty hefty tax dollars there, but the apron is only for your payroll, and they're under the first apron and under the second apron. So that number of 195 puts them, I think, $1 million below the first, and then 12 million below the second. So that's good for them. They're not in apron status. They are in the luxury tax zone though, so they are facing some of those penalties. They can still use their mid-level, their non-mid-level exception to sign a veteran player if they want to, but since they've already done pretty much all of these crazy acquisitions, adding Lopez, Paul, Beal, they've used up a lot of those slots already. So um, you're not going to see the Clippers make any extra moves to add any cap room or take away any cap room. I think they're pretty happy with their roster. I don't have the names in front of me, but I know they have Amir Coffee maybe on a cap hold. I think they have somebody else on a cap hold that hasn't played. Maybe Reggie Jackson or something.
Oh, they got Rodney Hood. They got
Rodney Hood,
Xavier Moon, and then
Xavier Moon,
Ben Simmons, Patty Mills, Amir Coffee for
Patty
this
Mills.
next season.
Yeah.
But Xavier
Okay.
Moon, Rodney Hood, they have for like the next four.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's so Rodney Hood hasn't touched an NBA court in a
court
long
in a
time,
long
man. But
time.
yeah, they are strategically setting themselves up for future success. You know, they're not touching the apron zones, which is pretty good. They did have one of the more expensive teams a few seasons ago with that big three, but as it didn't pan out, they knew they had to go in a different direction, and they made their team cheaper. While I would argue getting better, I would
Yeah,
say that they're better than when they had PG, Kawhi, and Harden. And I think adding Bradley Beal to the mix on that cheap deal kind of shows you the cap maneuvering that they were able to complete this year to allow for that roster to be built. And credit to the owner, credit to Steve Ballmer and the GM, and all of the improvements that they were able to make in the offseason. I think it shows in their balance sheet. Outside of the cap holds and being in the luxury tax, which a lot of teams now are. I would say that used to be the thing before the CBA introduced the aprons. Being the luxury tax was seen as a big deal, and now it's not seen as,
it's
as too much
yeah,
of a big deal. So I think that's good for the Clippers. They have a pretty decently healthy balance sheet, and yeah, that's really good moving forward for their roster and what it says for their future, especially if this current roster doesn't end up working out, because they are very old. So
yeah. No, yeah, it's kind of crazy how they obviously did the Shea trade. We have like their next draft picks for the next like two more seasons, I believe. But the fact that they have went through that, it didn't work out. I think we talked about it. Ended up making a Western Conference Finals at one point, but really since then haven't really been able to figure out. Haven't been healthy. Haven't been able to get past first, second round, whatever it is. They're still a good team, and their balance sheet is great. So it's like you're not really in a bad spot because you traded away your future in order to win now, but you set yourself up really well for the future. So it's kind of crazy how they've been able to like rebuild during like not even a rebuilding era because you're trying to win now with PG and Kawhi, but that didn't work, and you were still able to get some good young player, or not young, but like get good players now to try to help you, so you don't end up giving us a lottery pick. You know what I mean? So it's kind of crazy how that ends up working out. But yeah, no, they're in a good spot, and I think for what they needed and what kind of was available in this off season, they did a great job. Like we said, Brooke Lopez, Bradley Beal, John Collins. So they made some moves, man. It's exciting. I know you said it. You don't ever talk highly about the Clippers, but I think this is probably one of the better off seasons for them as a franchise in a while. So probably really since the PG and Kawhi acquisition, but since then this is definitely up there for them. So excited to see what they can do for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, for sure, bro. And yeah, this kind of takes us on to the on the court moves they can make. I'll blast through these because I'm about to head out pretty soon. But I had three for us, so if you have any ones that you want to add, you can. But I think they can make a couple improvements on the court. I think number one, it's got to be balancing the minutes. They're old, bro, and
Old as
so that
fuck.
means it's a long season. They're gonna have to figure out those rotations, who can go for longer on certain nights, and then who needs to sit. Right when you have an average age of like 34 or something, it's tough to get through an 82 game season. So you have to be mindful of the minutes management, and I think that's going to come into play, especially whenever we come playoff time, man. Whenever the playoff season is around the corner, the Clippers are going to have to really look to manage people's minutes down the stretch. So I think that's going to be really important. The second thing is the space creation, man. They were 20th in 3-point attempts last year, which not very good in my opinion. I think they can get more threes up. I think adding Bradley Beal to the mix is going to help them do that a little bit, but he tends to get his from the mid range. I think the 3-point volume is still going to be lacking, and Harden and Beal are going to create a lot of downhill opportunities to be able to kick out and spray out to shooters, and guys need to be ready to shoot. I think they can increase those attempts to around 40 a game. It's 2026, 2025, 2026. If you're not getting 43 pointers up in a game, it's kind of like, what are you
What are you
doing?
doing? Yeah.
The Clippers were like 20th, I think, bottom half of the league last year in three pointers attempted. So I think that's a really key focus to focus on when you can make that on the court decision really easily. And then the last one is that front court rotation, bro. You talked about adding Brook Lopez. They drafted Niederhauser. They have Zubac. They have Collins. What's their lineup going to be? Who's going to be out there? Are they going to go double big? Are they going to stagger their guys? Is Niederhauser not going to play? There's just a lot of questions that they have to answer at their front court positions before they can make a really impact. I think their guards are pretty set, which is really good, but who are going to be the key bigs to make an impact on the roster with the other guards who are playing very well? I think Zubac deserves to start, and he will be. Same with John Collins, but
Mm-hmm.
Lopez or Niederhauser, that's really who I'm talking about, who's going to be that reliable backup to come in off the bench and really give them an opportunity to be great. Especially, the last point that I had was bench scoring, but that kind of takes me into my next point is the Clippers need to have a really good bench to be good. I think they could run into an issue because all their depth is in their starters, and we've seen a lot of the top heavy teams and what that's been like in the playoffs. It hasn't resulted to playoff wins, and I know the Clippers are trying to get to an NBA championship, let alone win. So, I'm excited to see, man. I know those are like the four things that I know they'll be able to do immediately, but they had a really good offseason, bro, and they don't really have like any off the court moves they need to make. I think they probably, I have the list. The Rockets probably had the best offseason, then them, the Clippers, and then the Hawks. So
I
they had
agree.
a really good offseason. So like,
Yep.
there's really not much I'm gonna say to do.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's they don't have much off the court things that they need to work on. It's really just kind of getting the continuity between the whole group and just kind of figuring out who is, like you said, who's from the out of all those bigs, who what is their starting lineup going to be, or what are the rotations going to look like, because they're one of the more versatile teams. You know what I mean? Like you said, they have Brook Lopez. Um, who they draft, bro? What's his name? Niederhauser.
Niederhauser, yeah, Niederhauser.
Niederhauser. And then Zoo, of course, who had arguably All Star season last year, and then John Collins. So just kind of figuring out what that lineup for that front court looks like, and like you said, they have the guards kind of set, so that's kind of a good thing. But whenever you're
Yeah,
as old as you are, it's kind of you're one injury away from it potentially kind of crumbling. But yeah, no, they it's gonna be exciting to see what they can do, man. I'm ready to see like a bounce back type of season for Bradley Beal, and just kind of showing us the type of player that we know he is, and the type of player he can still be. So excited, man. And was there anything else you wanted the people to know before we head out of here, bro?
bro. I think we got the Lakers to talk about next time, and
Yeah.
CJ gave it away a little bit. Their balance sheet doesn't look too bad. We are in a luxury tax, but not in the apron, so that's good. But yeah, no, man, just make sure you guys have a good rest of your night. You listen whether it's in the morning or at night. Hopefully, you guys have a good rest of the whatever it is.
Whatever, yeah.
And yeah, man, just keep listening to Three Man Weave. We appreciate you guys. CJ, I always like chopping it up
Yeah.
about hoops with you, man. There's really nothing better in this life.
Hell yeah, bro. Yeah, man. And if y'all liked and enjoyed this episode of Three Man Weave, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time, man. Peace. Three man, three man, three man.
Three man, come on, man. Oh, la la la.